Today on the Inside Scoop, LSU hosts the number one corner in America. Corey Raymond putting in work there. We're going to talk all about it. Alabama, they have the number one quarterback trending heavily to the Tide. Then we'll also talk Texas and Texas Tech. Big show. I am your host, Josh Newberg. Let's get to it. We are talking LSU. We got five-star intel from Shea Dixon, insider over on the Bengal Tiger. Big weekend. Lane Kiffin not letting the momentum slip. All gas, no brakes when it comes to recruiting. Even the high school level. Who knew Lane could do it? But here we are. He's doing it. All right, before we get going, LSU fans, make sure you hit subscribe to the Rivals Recruit channel. We're going to be talking to LSU recruiting all off season long, and we need you to be a part of it. All right, let's bring in Shea Dixon. There he is. And it's kind of a tale of 2 days here. You got Saturday, where there's a handful of prospects on campus, but by far the headliner here is the number one corner in the nation, Joshua Dobson, on campus, spending time with Corey Raymond. What are you hearing coming out of this one?
Yeah, as we talk, Josh, it's still going on here on Sunday. He arrived Friday, stayed through the weekend, and we're talking about a kid coming out of the East Coast, as you said, number one corner, already a five-star, and has been Corey Raymond's top target really from the start. And you think about what they did, Josh, but just a year ago, DJ Pickett, signing him as a five-star plus player, number one corner. He picked Corey Raymond in LSU over Miami, Oregon. He went on to stack up freshman All-American awards. I mean, they're pitching that to kind of push forward that idea of DBU and Derek Stingley and Matthew and all these guys who have gone on to play in the NFL. So I do think that LSU is probably going to be considered by most to be the team to beat right now.
Yeah. So Joshua Dobson on campus, and then today, Dobson's still on campus, but we're also expecting a healthy group of top in-state names. Shea, who are some of the important recruits from in-state that are on campus today?
Yeah, yesterday was kind of heavy on the out-of-state kids, including Jaden Bryant, one of their two commitments, the number one D lineman in the country. And then their other commitment, a top 10 quarterback, Peyton Houston, was here a week ago. So now they've got that next wave of kids in town. And it's really about look, the portal took up the first, 14, 15, 21 days of the month of January. And then the coaches hit the road. So Lane Kiffin, the whole staff, everyone was out there seeing these guys. Now you're bringing them in on the weekends. So, look, whether we're talking Miguel Whitley out of St. Aug, who's a top 10 receiver on Rivals, Braylon Calais, who is coming out of Cecilia. Lane Kiffin went and saw him this week. He's a top 10 athlete. Franklin Parrish, Trey Martin, one of multiple running backs they've offered in Louisiana, who's a Rivals 300 player, and Jaden Anding, who another Rivals 300 player, plays DB at Ruston, has been one of the state's best teams for a number of years now, Josh. And his brother Aiden was a four-star top 300 player who signed with LSU a year ago. So as much as we've talked about the portal and retention being important, back Josh, and at Ole Miss, he was portal king. They were assigning 20 to 25 high school guys in class, and I think for LSU, it's following the protect guys, recruit the border state guys, and then swing for the fences with national guys.
Yeah, and that seems like the formulas. And, you mentioned that Peyton Houston was on campus 2 weeks ago. How's the relationship? What do you consider his commitment status? And I only ask because he committed to a different staff, and we know that goes both ways. I mean, maybe on his end, he's not familiar with Lane Kiffin. Maybe Kiffin, it's not his type of quarterback. What's your sense on that relationship after this visit?
Yeah, Peyton Houston had conversations with Lane Kiffin and Charlie Weiss, the OC, and staff members, but in person, I think that visit with his family, like you said, a couple of weekends ago, was key to kind of building more on the relationship. And then Lane and the staff went up and saw him at Evangel. So everything he has said so far to us is that he's locked in, ready to roll. He is going to be the high school quarterback in this class for them because, remember, right here down the block from LSU is Dunham, where Elijah Haven goes to school.
Right.
LSU's prior staff kind of wasn't heavily in the mix there. And when Lane Kiffin and them arrived, he said that he hadn't heard from them. So they didn't make his list of Final Four. So they're sticking with Peyton Houston here, who Yes, portal quarterbacks is all the rage right now, given LSU had to take three of them down to zero
Hmm.
scholarship quarterbacks. But I fully believe that this will be Peyton Houston will be Lane Kiffin's first high school signee at LSU.
All right. Well, these are exciting times. Lane Kiffin on the ground recruiting for LSU. Appreciate you stopping by today on the Inside Scoop, Shay. We're talking Alabama because it was a 5-star recruiting weekend in Tuscaloosa. And from all accounts, it sounds like Kalen DeBoer and his staff crushed it. We got Andrew Bone from Bama Online. He's going to break it down. But before we do that, Alabama fans, do me a favor. Hit subscribe to the Rivals Recruits channel. We're going to be talking Bama recruiting all off season long. All right, let's bring in insider Andrew Bone from Bama Online. And, all indications are it was a great weekend. The industry's number one recruit was on campus, John Meredith. He's a corner from Texas. What are you hearing on how it went with him?
Yeah, it sounds like things went great with John Meredith. He visited with his mom, and they had another great trip. It was the second time they were in Tuscaloosa, but it was also the third time in the last 2 weeks that they've met with Coach Mo Lindquist, the Alabama defensive backs coach. They formed a really great relationship with each other. He went out and saw him twice in Texas, and this is a tight race between Alabama and Texas A&M right now. Obviously, some other schools are high on his list, but it looks like that's a two-team battle right now. So getting him on campus for a multi-day visit, not just for junior day on Saturday. Came in on Friday and spent all day on campus, and then again on Saturday. So almost like an official visit, but an unofficial visit. So getting him on campus was huge for them, and then he plans on getting back for an official visit and also a spring visit. So we'll see when he makes that decision. But I think that Alabama certainly has put themselves in a really good spot. Not saying that they're ahead of A&M or anything like that, but I think it's a very close race between those two schools. But Alabama's got as good of a chance as the Aggies do.
Yeah, Alabama, Texas A&M. I mean, duking it out, heavyweights on the trail. Alabama, Indiana. Welcome to 2026 because this is a battle. 5-star wide receiver Monshun Sales. He's the number one player in the state of Indiana. And the experts had him, trending to Alabama for some time now, but obviously Indiana winning the national championship, getting him on campus numerous times. We got a real battle here for Monshun Sales, don't we, Andrew?
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. We never really have seen too many Alabama Indiana recruiting battles on the football front, but obviously the success with Indiana, they're certainly being able to capitalize on that, and they're going to land some big recruits and potentially land Sales. But I think with Sales coming back to Tuscaloosa, it was his first time visiting since last spring, and over the last couple months, we've seen some predictions roll in for Alabama, even without making a trip in several months. So getting him back on campus was a big deal for Alabama. Coach DeBoer, new wide receivers coach Derek Nix, and new quarterbacks coach Brian Ellis, formerly the tight ends coach at Alabama, went up and saw him here recently. So that was this was another great visit for him. Alabama was his dream school. This kid originally from Alabama, from Inslee, the Birmingham area, not too far away from Tuscaloosa, and it always grew up wanting to play for Alabama. So getting him back on campus, being around the program, being around several players. We saw him in the photo with a few of the Alabama quarterbacks like Keelan Russell, Austin Mack, and Jet Tamala. So I think he feels comfortable down there. It's still a tight race. We'll see when that decision time frame is going to be. But Alabama's, as Steve Wiltfong noted in his story after the visit, still likes Alabama's position with him, and I think Alabama feels like they're in good shape as well. But still a long way to go.
Yeah, and Steve's always the ultimate insider, but none more so than on Monshun Sales when the number one player is from Steve's own home state of Indiana. So we'll see what happens there. But another big theme of the weekend was, well, besides the 5 stars on campus, but number one quarterback, Elijah Haven, was on campus. And Andrew, I saw he brought his whole family with him. To me, and we've been hearing rumors that he's going to make a decision here soon. We don't know what soon is. Maybe he'll tell us, but he brought the whole family. Was this kind of like a, hey, let's go check all the boxes type visit before we make a final decision?
Yeah, possibly. He had already intended to make a decision sometime in January. Then it kind of got pushed back to February. Is visiting Auburn on Sunday. So I think he really likes both of those programs. Some other schools like Florida and gosh, I'm trying to think of who that fourth school is. Georgia, excuse me. So Florida and Georgia really want him to take, wait until March, come back to campus for an unofficial visit before he makes that decision. But Alabama, probably going into this weekend, Alabama's at the top of the list. Even with Trent Seaborn as an Alabama commitment, they have such a close relationship with the Alabama coaching staff. Really led by Coach DeBoer and Ryan Grubb. Now Nick Sheridan, former quarterbacks coach, now the offense coordinator at Michigan State. So they had a relationship, but as we've heard, it really kind of not, I wouldn't say probably more, but kind of the same relationship with DeBoer and Grubb. So I don't think anything has really changed on that front. I don't think Nick Sheridan going to Michigan State really affected him. But they had a great time in Tuscaloosa. Continue to feel like they are trending. But Auburn, Georgia, and Florida continuing to make that push. So we'll see if he makes a decision sometime in February or stretches it out and takes some more visits. But as we all know, I mean, it's never really over, even if he makes that decision, because these schools are going to continue to push, continue to try to get him on campus for official visits. But I think Alabama did a good job with him once again.
Yeah. And Alabama fans got to feel good about where they're at with Elijah Haven and also Trent Seaborn. We're going to talk about him in a minute, but if you guys want more updates, because there are more, I could sit here and talk with Andrew for about an hour based on just the intel that he's reported on over the weekend. So go to Bama Online and check that out. But I want to talk about Trent Seaborn because the Miami Hurricanes are heavily involved there. He, for a period of time, was their top target on the QB board. He commits to Alabama. Now the number one quarterback, Elijah Haven, seems like he might be committing. If he ends up in the class, what does this mean for Trent Seaborn, and can Alabama realistically sign them both?
I think Alabama would certainly like to sign them both. Now, they signed two quarterbacks in last year's class with Jet Jamal and Tatum Kawab, but I think they'd like to sign two again. You never know how, with the transfer portal and everything, how the quarterback room may shake out. Guys don't start. They're going to try to look for another place. So I think Alabama, would like to sign two quarterbacks once again. I think Trent Seaborn's okay with it. I talked to him about it before. He's talked to Elijah. Elijah knows. Elijah even knew before Trent came out and announced his commitment that Trent was going to Alabama, and still, kind of came out there and said that Alabama was his leader. So I think that says a lot about both of those guys. But with Trent, we know that a lot of schools are still coming after him. Mario Cristobal met with him last week. They still consider him a top priority in their 2027 class. So he says that he's not going to take any visits. He wants to maintain those relationships with other coaches. He appreciates the interest and they're continuing to push for him. But as of right now, he says he's very comfortable, confident with his commitment to Alabama. Is helping recruit. Mentioned to me that he spent a lot of time with Marshawn Sells and Jaden Upshaw during their weekend trip this week. So I think he's very solid, even if Elijah Haven ended up committing. I mean, this is a kid that grew up always wanting to play at Alabama. It was his dream school. Lives in Alabaster, so not too far away from Tuscaloosa. So I think Alabama's in a good shape with Trent, regardless of Elijah Haven's decision.
All right. Well, Alabama fans, things are getting exciting for 2027. Who's your top target on the board when it comes to this cycle? Let us know. Comment section below. It's time to talk Texas. We are going to go behind the scenes of some of these early predictions from national analyst Sam Spiegelman. Also talk about some big visits going down in Austin this weekend. But before we get going, Texas fans, do me a favor, hit subscribe. We are going to be talking Longhorn recruiting all offseason long, and we need you to be a part of it. All right, let's bring in national analyst Sam Spiegelman. And Sam, already Easton Royal in the boat, the number one wide receiver in America, but there's more to come. Who are some of your early predictions for the Longhorns?
Yeah, let's start with two positions that I know that Longhorn fans absolutely love to talk about. Let's start at offensive line. I think Texas is the team to beat for Brian Swanson, a four-star versatile offensive lineman at Dallas South Oak Cliff. He plays tackle, he plays guard. I think he can line up at 4 to 5 different positions up front, and he is very much coveted by Steve Sarkisian, Brandon Harris, and Kyle Flood over there in Austin. He was back on campus earlier this month, and there is no team recruiting him as hard as Texas. A&M is swinging away. Oklahoma is trying to keep pace, but ultimately I like where Texas stands long-term with Brian Swanson. He could have a decision before the end of the spring. I also think Texas is the favorite to land Ty Knutson, another state championship winning quarterback from Smithson Valley here in San Antonio. He was one of the first new offers extended at quarterback by Steve Sarkisian and A.J. Milwee. We know they missed on guys like Kavian Bryant, who is committed to Texas Tech, and they missed on Pop Houston, who committed to LSU. This is the next top guy at quarterback. I'm told this staff loves Ty Knutson. I think it's a mutual feeling. I could see him being one of the next dominoes to fall for Steve Sarkisian and the Longhorns moving forward.
Yeah, currently ranked number 9 in America right now, and we know following Texas recruiting under Steve Sarkisian, he's not afraid to take his time, Sam. So having a couple commitments in the boat already must mean that Texas is making these guys a priority. What do you like so far about some of the commitments in this 27 class?
Yeah, well, they're not only hitting the state very hard, but they're hitting, they recruit nationally so well. They went out and got the number 1 wide receiver in the country, Easton Royal. I can't tell you how devastatingly dangerous Easton Royal is as a pass catcher. I've been fortunate enough to see him in person on multiple occasions for games, practices, workouts. He has elite speed. He has tremendous ball skills. I have not been able to see anyone cover him one-on-one to this point. When you think about what Steve Sarkisian has done with offensive playmakers in the past, the world is his oyster when he has someone like Easton Royal now being a part of that equation, getting him on board early, getting him back 2 weeks ago in the middle of a snowstorm, only solidified his commitment as schools like Ole Miss, Tennessee, LSU, Ohio State, and others are swinging away. And they recently added a big commitment from Rivals 300 edge Cameron Hall. This was a very tight recruiting battle. Texas had momentum. TCU also turned up the heat on the local DFW 4-star edge. Texas getting him on board this early is monumental. Obviously, we know that they just tabbed Will Muschamp to be their defensive coordinator. You get someone like Cam Hall who can rush with his hand in the dirt from a stand-up position, just create havoc. This is the kind of defensive prospects we should expect Will Muschamp and Steve Sarkisian to keep bringing to Austin moving forward.
Yeah, and this weekend, I know, the weather played a part in some of these visits over the weekend, but Texas did get some guys on campus. What are you reporting after a busy weekend in Austin?
Yeah, one of the most coveted defensive prospects in the state for 2027, Jaden Nelson out of Langham Creek in Houston, picked up an offer from Texas on Tuesday. Steve Sarkisian, special teams coordinator Jeff Banks were in Houston. They extended the offer. And at the end of this visit, Texas is certainly the team to beat for Jaden Nelson. We're talking about a visit that kind of reversed course on his recruitment. And now Texas has set the bar. This is one of the 6'3", 210 pounds. Coaches like him off the edge. They like him at linebacker, all over the second level, just causing chaos. Jaden Nelson visits Texas. I have no doubt that they are the team to beat. Schools like Texas Tech and Texas A&M are trying to keep pace. Houston as well, but they have their work cut out for them keeping up with Texas after this weekend's visit.
Yeah. So moving forward, what are these visit weekends going to look like? When can we expect the top targets to be on campus for Texas?
Yeah, I think it's going to start picking up again when spring ball starts. You're going to get guys like Jaden Nelson back on campus, guys who have Texas in their lead 2 or 3, like Trey Moore, talented 4-star wide receiver from Pflugerville, or Julian Caldwell, a top 100 receiver from Argyle. These are guys who are expected back in the spring. You have new offers like Jasper Ngakwe, who's a really talented offensive tackle prospect, picked up an offer last month, and Texas is surging on his list. He's another prospect we expect to be back on the 40 acres this spring. Of course, guys like Montre Jackson is down to 8 schools and moving closer to a decision. Texas is right at the top of his list. These spring visits could be very pivotal. The final 2 or 3 visits before a lot of these blue chippers start to settle on their decisions.
Yeah. All right. Well, we will be talking Texas. So thanks today for dropping in with a little scoop on the Longhorns. Appreciate you, Sam.
Of course.
We are talking Texas Tech. We haven't done that yet. Not this offseason. Well, we've done it in the offseason, but not since the national championship game. So it's been like 2 weeks. We haven't talked Texas Tech. It's time to talk Red Raiders recruiting. We got Sam Spiegelman. We're going to go behind the scenes of this push for the number 1 class in America. But first, Texas Tech fans, do me a favor real quick. Hit subscribe. to the best recruiting channel on all of YouTube. We are going to be talking Texas Tech recruiting all offseason long. All right, let's bring in national analyst Sam Spiegelman. And Sam, when it comes to Texas Tech recruiting in 2027, we know they're pushing for number one. We're going to talk about that. But who are some early predictions that you have in for Joey McGuire and these Red Raiders?
Yeah, I have an early RPM forecast for Jerry Outhouse, a top 10 cornerback in the country. He's from Fort Worth, which is very close to Joey McGuire's old stomping grounds out there in Cedar Hill in South Dallas. Jerry Outhouse has camped for this Texas Tech staff. They're very bullish about his skills as a big corner, much like they signed All-American Savorian Martin last cycle. This is a two-team race right now between Georgia and the Red Raiders. He has got official visits set to both. Right now, I think Texas Tech is going to be hard to beat. I also feel equally as strong about their chances long-term with Peyton Miller, a top 12 offensive lineman in this 2027 class out of Anna, Texas. He was on campus in Tempe this weekend. He was supposed to be at Texas Tech last weekend. Weather got in the way. No one is recruiting Peyton Miller as hard as the Red Raiders. They have showed him that multiple times over the past 6 to 8 months. He's been on campus quite a bit, and I think Joey McGuire, Clay McGuire, who signed a fantastic O-line haul just a year ago, is on track to do that again, with Peyton Miller being his top guy at the position.
Yeah. So looking at it right now, Texas Tech has the number 2 ranked class in America. Who right now, a lot of Red Raider fans kind of turning the page on 2026 where they finish 18. It's a really top-heavy class, some really great players at the top of that class. But 2027 coming together, who are some of the headliners here?
Yeah. Well, first of all, what Joey McGuire, James Blanchard, and his Red Raiders crew have done, signing a top 20 class for the first time, and as long as I've been covering the Red Raiders, and now with the number 2 class in the country battling for number 1, that's not a conversation you and I typically have in February, Josh. So hats off to this Red Raider squad that have hit the ground running. They hold a commitment from the number 1 player in the Rivals 300. We know he's dominant. We just saw him at Under Armour and again at the Polynesian Bowl in Hawaii, Jalen Brewster, one of the most athletic big men in recent recruiting cycles, the number 1 player in the country, and someone that our guys, Charles Power and Cody Belair, feel very strongly will probably compete for that number 1 spot until this time next year. He is the foundation of this class and an early big get for Texas Tech, beating out schools like Ohio State, Texas A&M, and Indiana for Jalen to land that commitment in the season. They also have a commitment from another elite defensive lineman, K. Adrian Redmond. All very toolsy kids, 6'4", 300 pounds, moves very well. The future of this Red Raiders defensive line is going to be wicked moving forward. And then Benny Easter is one of the most prolific, dynamic receivers in the country. He's a blue chipper, an early get for Joey McGuire in this class. We know that the offense was a huge focal point of the offseason. Benny Easter is going to challenge for snaps early on when he arrives in Lubbock.
Man, and the great thing about this class, the foundation of it's already built, number 2 in the country, but only 5 commitments. So ton of firepower here, pound for pound, a really strong class. Also, every commitment right now is from the state of Texas. It seems like there's going to be more to come. Do you think Texas Tech has kind of turned the tides? Are they the dominant recruiting program in the state of Texas?
I don't think we can say that they're the exclusive only dominant team. The way that Texas and A&M have recruited, that speaks volumes. Houston signed the number 1 prospect from the state last year in Keyshawn Henderson. There's a little bit of imitation going on. But Texas Tech, Josh, from 5 years ago, 6 years ago, this is a different level of recruits that they're recruiting now. We know about the NIL factor, and we've also talked about the fact that perhaps no team evaluates the state as well as these Red Raiders. They have fantastic evals, guys like Jacob Rodriguez, who are now going to get drafted super early. So the combination of NIL, turning their championship hopes around, competing for playoff spots and conference championships, and they got some money to spend out there with that oil money. This is a whole different level of recruiting for Texas Tech that I think we all need to get accustomed to.
Yeah. It doesn't seem like anybody can stop Texas Tech on the recruiting trail right now, except for Mother Nature. These Texas storms have really put a damper on a couple of these junior days, huh, Sam?
Yeah, they were supposed to have 2 star-studded junior days this weekend, last weekend, with a lot of these names I'm about to rip off for you before we end here. But they have been unable to make it to campus. Listen, the coaching staff made up for it. They were at high schools. They went in-home with kids. Their top 27 commits, their top 2027 targets. They're on the upward track. But now it's like we have to get them to campus, whether that's in February, whether that's for spring ball. They need to take another step forward. Probably a few missed opportunities that make that 5 commitments to 6 or 7 or 8 with some more in-state kids. But they're ready to hit the ground running when campus is back open.
Yeah, and we're going to be covering Texas Tech recruiting all of season long. So talk to us, Red Raider fans. How you feeling about the class? You know, unofficially, the 2026 class is going to sign on this coming Wednesday. That'll be the official signing day, but that class is in the books. How you feeling about 2027? Who is your favorite commitment so far? Let us know. Comment section below. Miami fans, the class of 2026 is signed and set to enroll, so it's time to get to know the talent that is coming onto this roster this offseason. The class itself ranked 8th overall with a total of 31 commitments, and in this video, we're going to take a look at the highlights of the top-ranked signees for the Miami Hurricanes. Before we do that, make sure you guys are subscribed to this channel because we're talking Miami Hurricane recruiting all offseason long. All right, we got to start with Jackson Cantwell. He's the top signee, the top player in the industry rankings, #1 overall. And obviously with Maui Noah, Markel Bell heading to the NFL, the future is now for Jackson Cantwell. You can see that he is going to be the anchor of this offensive line for years to come. Take a look at these highlights. Get to know the incoming blue chippers for the Miami Hurricanes. I'll talk to you at the end of this video. Up next, we are watching Samarian Wingo out of St. Augustine, a impressive wide receiver at 6'2", 190 pounds. He's expected to come in and contribute as a freshman. Miami's known for its great tight ends that eventually land in the NFL, and Gavin Mueller could be next. He's from South Eglin, Illinois, and he's 6'5", 250 pounds. #5 ranked tight end in America. Miami is loaded in the trenches. Keyshawn Stansel is a good example of a late addition, 6'3", 260 pounds. He's out of Clayton, North Carolina. He's a top 10 defensive lineman in America, 92 overall. Milan Paris was a huge addition late in the cycle for the Miami Hurricanes. He's 6'4.5", 205 pounds out of Akron, Ohio. Expected to come in and make some plays right away for this Miami Hurricane offense. So there you see it. Those are the highest ranked players in Miami's class. Now, if you guys want to know more about the Canes 2026 class, let me know in the comment section below, and we will do more Miami Hurricane content.